Hi, welcome to Make or Repair. Today I'm looking at this Exfo Omnicure S1000. It's a UV light source for curing adhesives and resins and things like that. Now on this device you can set both exposure level in 100 really linear steps, and also the exposure time, of course. It's a precision device, and because it's calibratable, built like a tank and very powerful, these cost a pretty penny. Anyway, I picked it up a few days ago for next to nothing, with the conditions stated as unknown, which I took to mean broken. But I've had a sneak preview, and I can tell you this is going to be a teardown, not a repair, because there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. It's just difficult to test without the light pipe. But I think the teardown will be interesting anyway. Now these are used all over the place, from dentistry and prosthetics to high-end electronics, space, aerospace, military. The list is endless, really. There are a few second-hand ones available for sale from a similar series, and with the light pipe you can expect to pay a couple of £1,000. Without the light pipe, perhaps 1,000 or even more. The 1,000, 1,500 and 2,000 are similar, except the power and what sort of digital interfaces they provide on the back. Anyway, I intend to drop this one back onto eBay at a price that's a bit more suited to enthusiasts. They've got a couple of options. The filter, which selects the UV wavelength, and the type of light pipe that you choose to use with it. For example, you can fit a multi-headed pipe to use on multi-headed assembly machines and things like that. Okay, enough talking, let's get it open. So it's just got 4 Phillips screws. This panel here, by the way, is in case you need to change the light bulb. So here we go. Let's take a look at this side first, I think. So this is the optical assembly side. So just here we've got an interlock switch, so I can't operate this now that I've actually taken the lid off, which is a nice safety feature, of course, and that will operate with just the panel that enables you to change the light bulb. The bulb is a 100-watt high-pressure mercury vapor lamp, and it's carefully pre-aligned, and it also has an integrated usage timing chip, which it reports back to the main unit. It's got a wide range of peak wavelengths, and it costs a small fortune. Fortunately, the bulb in this one has only had 500 hours of usage, meaning it has over 1,500 hours left in calibration. So that's that assembly, very straightforward, and underneath it there's a big centrifugal fan. There's a fan outlet on the back just here. You can see there's a big aluminium tube just running along here with a stepper motor bolted on the bottom, and there's a sensor here. So this is an opto sensor. One side's a diode, the other side's the sensor. And of course, that is the mounting point for the light pipe. So again, we've got another interlock there, really, that's just preventing us turning on the UV light without a tube attached. What's the stepper motor for? Well, just here you can see this slot, and hopefully from the other camera you might be able to see that that's a disc. And if I get my... yeah, there we go. You can see our stepper motor just here. And behind it, there's this slotted panel. So you can see the holes are getting shorter as we go down that. On the edge here though, you can see a little slot cut, and that's the 0 index. So here's our disc, and you can see that that slot there goes through the center of this little opto coupler at the back, so it can index to 0. So as soon as it turns on, if this isn't in the 0 position, it should zip round until it's in the 0 position. And then of course, it's a completely blank piece of this aluminium that's located blocking the beam. That circular grid has a linear reduction in the length of each hole, and because it's a wide grid, not just one hole, it creates a very linear level of brightness control for the bulb. In practice, the brightness can be varied with very good linearity between 0 and 100%. Now buried in here somewhere, there's also a filter. If I look at the back panel, you can just see that it's got a 320 to 500 nanometer filter option fitted, and that's the sort of a general purpose filter. And you can see there's loads of other filters you can fit on there, but yeah, this has got the general purpose one fitted, which is just great, really. If you go to 250, then that's a bit more dangerous for the skin and the eyes and everything. So unless you really need 250, you don't want to be down there. One of the reasons that they do these different things, by the way, and some of them are narrower, is so that if you're working on a very sensitive component, you're limiting the amount of energy that's getting spilled out from that and heating nearby objects. So while I'm here in this section, just here there's a little printed circuit board. It's got some power on it, it's got some fan connectors, it's got a connector here going through the front panel, Yeah, and those will be basically stepper wires and sensor wires going off to the microcontroller, and all the optical connections come onto this board. But there's no active components on this board. It's literally just a little sort of interface board to collate everything on this side of the device, and it passes it through that hole in the front panel up to the microcontroller. And down there, of course, we've got the power back of the power switch, and at the back here we've got some power cables just running through to the power supplies. So if we turn it over, we can see that there's a power supply board. It's not quite so obvious, I think. I turn it sideways like this, we can see there's a whole other assembly under here. My first thought was that was going to be the microcontroller board, but in actual fact, I think it's just another power board. So I think what they've done is that this board, which doesn't appear to be connected directly to the mains connection, is actually our high voltage board, and the one underneath is our low voltage board for our stepper motors and our microcontroller and all of that sort of stuff. So if we take a quick look along this board, I'm not going to dissect it in any detail whatsoever. We've got some nice big heavy power coming in on this side. We're coming into a choke, a bunch of capacitors, and we've got a UC3825N. And as you can see, that is a pulse width modulation controller. So this is pretty much a straightforward switch mode power supply. So we've got our chokes, we've got our primary side control over here, we've got our transformer over here, we've clearly got a current sensor some variety just here, and LMC6084A, I'm going to guess that's just an op amp. It's doing some comparative. There'll be a difference in the current required between striking the bulb and actually maintaining it in on state. And just here we've got an MCO device. It's a model G20, and these are high voltage step up devices, all encapsulated. So you get 12 volts going in, and I'm not quite sure what the G20 is. Let's see what that is. So here we go, G series, 1.5 watt convection cooled high voltage converters. And there's a little diagram. So basically it's an oscillator, a transformer, and a rectifier multiplier. And we're looking at a G20. Let's see if we can find that. So there's our G20, 0 to 2000 volts. Yeah, 0.75 milliamps. So no particular current, but yeah, plenty of voltage just to strike that small arc lamp. So on the input, mains input, we can see we've got a big filter there. So that's a power dynamics filter. And yeah, it's just integral with the IEC socket, and another fan at the back here just to take the heat away. Fairly complicated, made for it specifically, but ultimately just a slightly weird switch mode regulator at the end of the day. Let me have a look and see if I can see the other side of this. So I think this heatsink at the bottom is just fastened onto some brackets and things like that. Big aluminium sheet separating the two halves. So we've got two screws on this side. As far as I can see, I'm just bolting the whole assembly onto a couple of brackets. So this is probably the only one I'm doubtful about. I reckon the others go to the bracket. That one definitely does. That one definitely did because I could see it. Now I have replaced this filter underneath. That was absolutely filthy. So as I was doing my cleaning, I just popped a new bit of filter material in there. Some longer one there. It still won't come out, so we'll just go for one more. I'm hoping I can now take this out. Well, it will come out, definitely. And here's our other power supply. Excellent. So in this one, we can see the mains coming in this side. We've got some PTCs, we've got some X caps, and then we're just into our normal switch mode power supply. We've got quite a lot of transformers here, so I don't know what voltages it's producing. It's producing multiple voltages looking at this side, but we only appear to be using two of them. So this is an off-the-shelf power supply board. Let me just see if I can look at part number and things. This is a Keith Tech 200S. Let's see if we can see that. So looking at this data sheet, we've got a Tech 200SC-SE. I reckon it'll be that one based upon the mating connector, the Molex connector that's on the end. It's got a fan drive, remote power good signal, and all that sort of stuff as well. So that's why it's a bit more complicated than you might expect. There are various voltages it could be, but it's going to be 12. And yeah, 12 volts, 16.7 amps, which is why we've got all of these cables coming off the end here. There's 3 cables for the positive and 3 for the negative. And yeah, and those are looping through onto that other board we saw. So we're obviously getting down to our 12 volts here. And then I assume we must be doing a bit more regulation and things like that on the other side. So, okay, so into this second board, we've got our plus minus 12 volts. And then we've got some small cables coming off, which are going to the front board. We've also got our fan cables and things like that coming off here. We've got some jumpers here, which I don't know what they're for. Okay, let me get this reassembled, and then we'll look under the front cover. Because essentially, this is 2 power supplies, a bulb, some opto sensors, and then there'll be the logic behind here. And I imagine that the display is stuck on that board and it's just a single board solution. But anyway, first I've got to get everything back in position. The front panel isn't too bad to access. We've just got some screws in the corners. A couple of them are a little bit tricky to get at, I think, but I think we'll be all right. These are all into threaded metal inserts. There's none of this self-tapping rubbish going on here. It's a little bit of blue tack on this one, so it hopefully stays stuck to my... There we go. Oh, well, that's easy. It's come away. So here we go, as predicted, a single board with the 7-segment LED display on one side of it and all the other components on the other. We've got the start-stop button just here on a little flying lead. A little LED which tells you whether you're plugged in with your optical assembly, which is just here. Looks very nice, doesn't it, the way they've done that? And yeah, and our power coming through from the regulator. And yeah, as far as I can see, all they've done here with this power is they've used a very thin cable and they've actually doubled it up. Quite sure why they've done that. I mean, obviously it doubles the current capacity, but yeah. So I think this comes onto the board, and then we've got a little regulating down to 12 volts just here. We can tell that because we've got an inductor just here as well as the IC and a biggish capacitor. So I think that's a 12 volt to 5 volt regulator going on just there. I'm not sure if I can see that part number. I will try. It says LTNB, which I don't really know what that means, but anyway, I'm pretty sure that that is going to be just a little regulator or of some variety. Okay. So let's move back across the board a little bit, and we've got an IC down here, an A3977. Okay, and there it is, the A3977 SLP blah blah blah, and it is indeed a stepper motor driver. We've got a rather bodged on capacitor in the corner there. I suspect that that's been added by someone later, because that's a surface mount pad that it's on. So evidently someone has done a repair on this at some point. But anyway, there's our stepper motor driver. And some of these will be our stepper motor, others will be the optical sensors and things like that. Let's see what this is. Oh right, that's our 16F76i. So that is in fact our microchip. To be honest, I think this soldering on the front edge leaves a little bit to be desired, but yeah, there it is. It's just a bog standard microchip, 16F76. Moving across, what we've got here, MC14489, and that's your 7-segment display driver. So I think that's probably going to be something like SPI or I2C in, and yeah, and that'll be going to a 7-segment. So that's actually something I might want to just keep in mind for my own projects occasionally. Nice. And what have we got up in this corner? We've got a Max 3221. That'll be onto that socket just there, be providing RS232. And I can see that we've also conveniently, we've got an I2C just here. So presumably there are some options available for this that would use that I2C. Oh yeah, there's the in-circuit programming header just there. So in-circuit programming header here, I2C here, and a UART connector over here. So RS232. So yeah, that's really nice. And ridiculously simple. I mean, seriously, we've got a microcontroller sensing a few opto devices and driving a stepper driver and a display and a buzzer, evidently. Let's get this reassembled and then we shall see it in operation. So hopefully you can now see that these lamps are actually flashing and the display is flashing as well. That means that the bulb isn't up to temperature. But the lamp is green or yellow. The open light is not lit, so all is safe. But we've got a red light here on the light pipe connector. It's all flashing because The bulb is not up to operating temperature as yet. Now I can move through the modes. So that's 100% illumination. 0500 with a decimal point on the end is the lamp usage counter. So that's 500 hours. And just here, this is the time 002.0. That's 2 seconds, 2.0 seconds. So we can't really do anything with any of this at the moment. And that's because we haven't got our thing plugged in. And also our lamp is warming up at the moment, so we can't make any adjustments. And to persuade it that we've got something in the hole here, I'm actually going to put something in the hole. And there we go, we've turned green because we've interrupted that opto sensor. So it's about 90 seconds before it's at temperature, and there we are, we're ready to go now. So we can see I can now change the amount of time that it's going to run for. Let's have, and this does accelerate. Once you kind of go into 10 seconds, then it counts up really fast on the next digit and so on. So there we go, 3, our mode, 100% illumination. So we can't change that at the moment, you see, because in order to change the illumination, we require to actually output light. And that's so that if we're actually coupling this to a measurement device, we can actually measure it. And there's our lamp hours again. So we just go round and round on that circle. So let's turn it on. I've got my thing in here to fool the sensors. Oh, it comes on really, really briefly. Whoops. So it comes on really briefly. You can hear the motor inside moving, and then it turns off immediately. But the light guide's filled, right? Well, by now you might have guessed what the problem is. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this piece of aluminium tubing and I'm going to feed that in. And now if I run it, there we go, there's our light. Now because I've got loads of light spilling out, I'm just going to put a pair of glasses on. Super duper. So these are UV protective glasses for this job, so that I don't accidentally hurt my eyes. But there we go, there's our UV light spilling out quite happily. And because I'm on this setting, which is the aperture control setting, the timer isn't operating. So now I can change the brightness. And as I do that, I can feel that stepper motor doing individual steps. And hopefully you might be able to just see that the light is beginning to dim. And there we have it. That's at its minimum setting. So I'm going to turn it up a bit more so we can see it. And literally that is just that metal disc spinning around and around. Okay, so let me turn it off again. So that's how we change the brightness, and we can couple it to some sort of light meter in order to measure it if we need kind of very, very precise measurements. If I change mode though, here's our 3 seconds. So I can do this using this button or a foot switch. It counts down, turns off. So as you can see, this is completely working. There's nothing wrong with it at all. I might see if I can get a light pipe and use this myself, although I don't very frequently have use for it. I think I'm much more likely to just sell this on to an enthusiast who could do with one of these. Even if they just need the bulb out of it, it's going to be worth it. And for those interested in the reason the pencil didn't work but the aluminium tube did, so when you put this in, it interrupts a photodiode and a sensor. That's absolutely great. As soon as the UV light comes on though, there's energy flooding down the sides of this pencil and onto one of those sensors. So that's why I changed it for this tube. This is much tighter fitting, and the light goes down the center of the tube instead of around its edges. And that way the photo sensors are able to sense as they're intended. This was supposed to be a repair video, but of course it turned into a teardown. I think it's always interesting though to look inside some of these more industrial types of devices just to see their build quality, and in this case I'm very pleased that it's using off-the-shelf components for pretty much everything really. You can repair anything in this. Very simple, very effective. I like the precision engineering around the aperture control and things like that. Unfortunately I couldn't gain any access to get hold of the filter. It would have meant really taking this optical assembly apart, and I couldn't really see how to go about that very easily. But I mean, it would have just been a filter, so it's really nothing much to look at. Anyway, hope you enjoyed it. If you did, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already done so, and of course, I always welcome comments, and share this with your friends. Bye for now.